The trash bag slipped from my hands as pain exploded across my chest. I stumbled back through the screen door, gasping for air that wouldn't come. My father barely looked up from the sink. "Quit faking it, Augustus," he snapped, soap suds dripping from his hands. My Aunt Linda rolled her eyes from the couch. "You just want to get out of cleaning up," she said. I collapsed to my knees, vision swimming. Someone finally called 911. When the EMT checked my pulse, his face went white. "We need a stretcher." "Now!" he shouted. The room erupted. Everything blurred into chaos after that. Strong hands gripped my arms, lifting me onto something firm and wheeled. I tried to speak, to tell them I was fine, that this was all some terrible mistake, but my tongue felt thick and useless in my mouth. The ceiling tiles passed overhead in a dizzying sequence as they rushed me toward the ambulance parked in our driveway. Through the fog in my brain, I heard my father's voice change completely. Harold's concerned tone sounded foreign, almost theatrical. "Is he going to be okay? What's happening?" Just minutes ago, he'd been accusing me of laziness. Now he was playing the worried parent for the neighbors who'd gathered on their porches to watch. The EMT hovering over me had kind eyes behind his wire-rimmed glasses. "Stay with me, buddy. What's your name?" "Augustus," I managed to whisper. "Augustus, I'm Tyler. You're going to be fine. We're taking you to St. Mary's. Do you have any history of heart problems?" I shook my head slightly. I was 32 years old, worked as an accountant at Bradford and Associates, went to the gym 3 times a week, when I wasn't drowning in tax season paperwork. Heart problems were for old people, for men like my father who ate bacon with every meal and hadn't seen the inside of a gym since the 80s. The ambulance doors slammed shut, muffling the sounds of my family's sudden concern. Tyler's partner, a woman with her hair pulled back in a severe bun, was already on the radio. "Male, 32, bradycardia, BP dropping, possible cardiac event. ETA, 7 minutes. Bradycardia." The medical term drifted through my consciousness. I'd heard it before, maybe on one of those medical dramas my ex-girlfriend used to watch. Something about the heart beating too slowly. My vision swam in and out of focus. The ambulance siren wailed above me, and I could feel every bump in the road through the stretcher. Tyler kept talking to me, asking questions I couldn't quite process. My name, my address, whether I was on any medications. The answers felt like they were coming from someone else's mouth. We pulled up to the emergency room entrance, and suddenly I was moving again. Bright fluorescent lights assaulted my eyes as automatic doors whooshed open. A team of people in scrubs descended on me like a well-choreographed dance. Hands touched me everywhere at once, attaching monitors, inserting an IV line, pressing an oxygen mask over my nose and mouth. A doctor appeared above me, her dark hair streaked with silver, her expression focused and intense. "I'm Dr. Patterson. Augustus, can you hear me?" I nodded weakly. "Good. We're going to take care of you. I need you to stay calm. Your heart rhythm is very irregular. We're running tests right now to figure out what's going on." The next hour passed in a blur of needles and machines and questions. They took vials of blood. They hooked me up to an EKG machine, and I watched the erratic line bounce across the screen. A technician wheeled in a portable X-ray machine and positioned it over my chest. Through it all, Dr. Patterson stayed close, her sharp eyes tracking every monitor, every readout. My father and Aunt Linda appeared in the doorway of the examination room. They'd clearly driven well over the speed limit to get here so fast. Harold's face was pale, and for a moment, I almost believed his concern was genuine. Linda clutched her purse to her chest like a shield. "What's wrong with him?" Harold demanded. Dr. Patterson didn't look up from the tablet she was studying. "We're still running tests. Are you immediate family?" "I'm his father." Harold stepped forward. His only family. That wasn't quite true. My mother had died when I was 19, a sudden aneurysm that took her in her sleep. After the divorce, when I was 12, my father had remarried briefly, but that had ended badly. Now it was just Harold, his sister Linda, and me. A small, dysfunctional triangle. Dr. Patterson finally looked up, and her expression made my stomach clench. "I need to speak with Augustus first. Then I'll come talk to you both in the waiting room." Harold started to protest, but a nurse gently but firmly guided them out. The door closed behind them with a soft click. Augustus. Dr. Patterson pulled a stool close to my bed and sat down, meeting my eyes directly. "What I'm about to tell you is serious. Your EKG shows complete heart block. Do you know what that means?" I shook my head. "Your heart has an electrical system that controls its rhythm. In complete heart block, the electrical signals from the upper chambers of your heart aren't reaching the lower chambers properly. Right now, your heart is beating at about 35 beats per minute. Normal is 60 to 100. The number seemed impossible. 35 beats per minute? That was barely more than half what it should be. But here's what concerns me most." Dr. Patterson pulled up an image on her tablet and turned it to show me. "This is your chest X-ray. Your heart is enlarged. Combined with your EKG readings and your symptoms, I believe you have a severe congenital heart defect that's been undiagnosed your entire life." The words didn't make sense. Congenital meant from birth. How could something be wrong with my heart my whole life, without anyone knowing? "I don't understand. I've had physicals. I played soccer in high school. Sometimes these conditions can be asymptomatic for years, even decades. But yours has progressed to the point where it's life-threatening." Dr. Patterson's voice was gentle, but firm. "You need a pacemaker, Augustus, and you need it soon, possibly within the next 24 hours. A pacemaker. I thought of my grandfather, who'd had one installed when I was a kid. I remembered the small bump under his shirt, the way he couldn't go through metal detectors at airports. The surgery costs approximately $65,000. Your insurance will cover most of it, but you'll likely be responsible for around $15,000 out of pocket. $15,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. I had savings, thank God. I'd been careful, setting aside money from every paycheck for years. I had about $38,000 in my savings account. Enough to cover the surgery and still have a decent cushion. "I can handle it," I said quietly. "When do we do this?" Dr. Patterson smiled for the first time. "I'm admitting you overnight for monitoring. We'll schedule the surgery for tomorrow afternoon if everything stays stable. Try to get some rest." She left, and moments later, Harold and Linda were allowed back in. They rushed to my bedside, their faces masks of concern. But something felt off. The way they looked at each other, a quick glance I almost missed. The way Harold's first question wasn't about my health. $15,000? He said slowly. "That's a lot of money, son. Where are you going to get that kind of money?" "I have savings," I replied, suddenly wary. Another look passed between them. Quicker this time. Harold's expression shifted into something I couldn't quite read. "Well, that's good. That's real good." He patted my hand awkwardly. "You just focus on getting better. Linda and I will take care of everything else." "What do you mean, everything else?" "All the paperwork, the arrangements, making sure everything gets handled properly." Harold's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "You're in no condition to be dealing with all that bureaucracy. Let me manage things for you." Something cold settled in my stomach, but I was too exhausted to argue. The medications they'd given me were making my thoughts fuzzy, my eyelids heavy. "We'll let you rest." Harold squeezed my shoulder. "Don't you worry about a thing." As they left, I heard them whispering in the hallway. My hearing was still sharp despite the medication fog. Fragments of their conversation drifted back to me. Harold's voice. "The money." Linda's response. "Power of attorney." Harold again. "Won't even know." I tried to sit up, tried to call out to them, but sleep dragged me under before I could form the words. The morning sun streaming through the hospital window woke me. My chest ached, and the monitors beside my bed beeped steadily, tracking my too slow heartbeat. A nurse came in to check my vitals, her movements efficient and practiced. "Morning, Augustus. How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck." She smiled sympathetically. "That's pretty normal. Dr. Patterson will be by later this morning. In the meantime, I have some consent forms for you to sign before your surgery this afternoon." She handed me a clipboard with a stack of papers. I started reading through them, my accountant's brain automatically scanning the fine print even though I felt terrible. Standard medical consent forms. Authorization for the procedure. Acknowledgement of risks. Nothing unusual. Until I got to the fourth page. It wasn't a medical consent form at all. Buried between the surgical authorizations was a financial power of attorney document. It would give my father complete control over my bank accounts, my assets, my financial decisions. And it was written in such a way that it would be permanent, not temporary. My hand started shaking. Harold had tried to slip this in with the medical paperwork, counting on me being too sick or too trusting to read carefully. I held up the document. This isn't a medical consent form. The nurse leaned in to look, her brow furrowing. Oh, that shouldn't be in there. Let me take that. She removed the power of attorney form and handed the clipboard back to me, with only the legitimate medical documents. I'm sorry about that. Sometimes paperwork gets mixed up, but we both knew it hadn't gotten mixed up by accident. I signed the real consent forms with a pen that felt like it weighed 10 pounds. The nurse took the clipboard and left, giving me a sympathetic look that said she understood exactly what had almost happened. An hour later, Harold and Linda arrived. They brought flowers, a cheap bouquet from the hospital gift shop. Their smiles were too bright, too forced. "Morning, son." Harold set the flowers on the windowsill. "How are you feeling? Did you get all that paperwork signed?" "The medical consent." "Yes." Harold's smile faltered slightly. "All of it?" "Just the medical consent." I met his eyes steadily. The nurse removed a financial power of attorney form that somehow got mixed in with the surgery paperwork. "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" The mask slipped. Harold's expression hardened. "Now, Augustus, I was just trying to help. You're about to have major surgery. Someone needs to be able to handle your affairs if something goes wrong. I'm 32 years old, not 82. And I'm having a routine pacemaker implant, not brain surgery. I don't need you handling my affairs." Linda jumped in, her voice taking on that wheedling tone I'd heard 1,000 times growing up. "Augustus, don't be difficult. Your father is just looking out for you. With all that money in your savings, we need to make sure it's protected and used properly for your care." There it was. My savings. That's what this was really about. My money is fine where it is. I don't need it protected. Harold's face flushed red. "After everything I've done for you, I co-signed your student loans. I helped put you through college. And I paid back every single penny of those loans, with interest. Over 10 years. I could hear my voice rising, but I couldn't stop it. You didn't help me through college, you co-signed a piece of paper. I worked 3 jobs to pay for school. Well, maybe if you'd been a better student, you could have gotten scholarships." Harold's voice dripped with resentment. I'd never heard so clearly before. "Maybe then, I wouldn't have had to put my own credit on the line for you." Linda grabbed his arm. "Harold, not now. No. Let him speak." I felt a strange calm settling over me. "Say what you really mean." "Fine." Harold stepped closer to my bed. "You think you're so smart with your fancy accounting job and your condo. But you wouldn't have any of that without me. And yes, I think I deserve some compensation for the sacrifices I made. That money in your savings account, part of that should be mine." The room fell silent. Even the heart monitor seemed to beep more quietly. I stared at my father, this man who'd raised me with casual neglect and occasional cruelty, and saw him clearly for the first time in my life. "Get out. Augustus, come on." Linda tried her soothing voice again. "He didn't mean it like that." "Yes, he did. And I mean what I'm saying. Get out of this room. Get out of this hospital. I don't want to see either of you again." The door opened, and a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a hospital badge that read Patricia Martinez, patient advocate, stepped in. Her timing was so perfect, I wondered if she'd been listening outside. "I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you both to leave. Patient's request." "Now wait just a minute." Harold started to argue, but Patricia was already holding the door open, her expression polite but immovable. "If you don't leave voluntarily, I'll have to call security." Harold and Linda had no choice but to go. As they passed through the door, Linda turned back, her face twisted with anger. "You're making a mistake, Augustus. Harold was just trying to help. We both were. This is what you get for being ungrateful. Finally getting what we're owed." The words hung in the air after they left. Finally, getting what we're owed. What did that mean? Patricia closed the door gently and pulled a chair up beside my bed. "I've been doing this job for 12 years. I've seen a lot of families, a lot of situations. What I just witnessed, that's financial abuse. And we take it very seriously here. I don't even know what just happened. Your father was trying to gain control of your finances while you're vulnerable." Patricia's voice was matter-of-fact but sympathetic. "It happens more often than you'd think. Family members see someone who's sick or injured as an opportunity. He's my dad. That doesn't give him the right to exploit you." She pulled out a tablet. "I'm going to help you protect yourself. First, we're going to call your bank and put a verbal password on your account. Then we're going to move your money to a new account at a different bank, one your father doesn't know about. Can you do that?" I nodded, feeling numb. We spent the next hour on the phone, transferring my savings to a new account at a different bank across town. Patricia walked me through every step, her presence reassuring and professional. By the time we were done, my money was safe. Harold couldn't touch it even if he tried. "Now get some rest." Patricia stood to leave. "Your surgery is in 3 hours. You need your strength." "Thank you. That's what I'm here for." After she left, I lay back against the pillows, staring at the ceiling. My father had tried to steal from me while I was having a medical emergency. My own father, the man who was supposed to protect me. I closed my eyes, trying not to cry, and waited for them to come take me to surgery. The surgery itself was a blur. One moment, Dr. Yamamoto, the surgeon, was explaining the procedure, showing me on a diagram where the pacemaker would go. The next moment, there was a mask over my face, someone telling me to count backward from 10, and then nothing. I woke up in the ICU instead of the regular recovery room. That was my first clue something had gone wrong. Dr. Yamamoto's face appeared above me, and his expression told me everything before he spoke. The surgery was successful in that we implanted the pacemaker, but we discovered during the procedure that your heart muscle is far more damaged than the imaging suggested. The words seemed to come from very far away. "The pacemaker is controlling your heart rhythm now, but it's a temporary solution. Augustus, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you need a heart transplant. The damage is too severe. Without a new heart, you have maybe 6 months to a year." A transplant. The word echoed in my mind. Enormous and terrifying. The cost, including surgery, post-operative care, and anti-rejection medications for the first year, is approximately $500,000. With your insurance and hospital assistance programs, you'll be responsible for around $80,000. $80,000. I had $38,000 in savings. Even selling everything I owned wouldn't be enough. I'm placing you on the transplant waiting list immediately. Dr. Yamamoto's hand on my shoulder was warm and solid. But I won't lie to you. The wait can be long, and you need to have your finances in order before you can receive a transplant. The hospital has to be sure you can afford the post-operative care. How long do I have? To get the money together? A few months, maybe. To get a new heart? That depends on when a match becomes available. Could be weeks, could be a year. But based on the condition of your heart, I'd say you need it within 6 months. He left me alone with that information. Alone in the ICU, hooked up to a dozen machines, with my new pacemaker ticking away in my chest and the knowledge that it wasn't enough, that I was still dying. I thought about my father's attempt to steal from me that morning. 15,000 had seemed like so much money. Now I needed 80,000 just to have a chance at life. The universe had a sick sense of humor. They moved me out of the ICU after 3 days. My condition was stable, if you could call slowly dying stable. The pacemaker kept my heart beating at a normal rhythm, but it couldn't fix the damaged muscle. I was running on borrowed time. Cody showed up on the 4th day, my best friend since college, the brother I'd chosen instead of the family I'd been born into. He took one look at me in that hospital bed and his face crumpled. "Man, I came as soon as I heard. I was out of town for work." He pulled a chair close to the bed. Your dad called me. Told me you'd had a heart attack. Not exactly. I filled him in on everything. The diagnosis, the pacemaker, the need for a transplant, and my father's attempt to steal my money. Cody's expression darkened with every detail. That piece of garbage. You want me to go have a conversation with him? Despite everything, I smiled. A conversation involving your fists? If necessary. No. I just want him gone from my life. I shifted in the bed, trying to get comfortable. The incision where they'd implanted the pacemaker ached constantly. The problem is the money, Cody. I need 80 grand. I've got 38. Even if I sell my condo, with the mortgage and the market the way it is, I'd be lucky to walk away with 10,000 after everything's paid off. We'll figure it out. Cody leaned forward. What about hospital assistance? Payment plans? Already applied. Patricia, the patient advocate, she's been amazing. But there's only so much they can do. I need to have at least 50,000 guaranteed before they'll approve me for transplant. Right now, I'm short 12,000 just to meet that minimum. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of it crushing. I'm getting released tomorrow, staying with you if that's okay. Can't afford my mortgage and medical bills, so I'm going to have to let the condo go anyway. Of course it's okay. You can stay as long as you need. Cody hesitated. Look, I've got about 8,000 in savings. It's yours if you need it. The offer made my throat tight. I can't take your money. You're not taking it, I'm giving it. We'll call it a loan if that makes you feel better. Before I could respond, there was a knock on the door. Harold and Linda walked in like they owned the place. Like our fight 2 days ago had never happened. Augustus, son, we need to talk. Harold's voice was different now, conciliatory. We've been thinking about what happened, and Linda and we want to apologize. I shouldn't have pushed so hard about the power of attorney. I was just worried about you. Cody stood up, positioning himself between them and my bed. I think you need to leave. And who are you? Linda's lip curled. I'm Cody, his actual family, and you need to go. Harold ignored him, speaking directly to me. Look, I know you're angry, but you need money, and Linda and I have an idea. We want to help. Despite my better judgment, I was curious. How? A fundraiser. Linda stepped forward, pulling out her phone. We set up a GoFundMe page. For your transplant. We've already shared it with everyone we know, and people are donating. She showed me the screen. There it was. My name, my story, my picture from the hospital bed, all laid out on a GoFundMe page I'd never authorized. Augustus's life-saving heart transplant fund. And the donations were already rolling in. 5,000, 8,000, 10,000. You did this without asking me? You were in surgery, then recovery. Harold's tone was reasonable. Time is crucial here. Every day matters. We're trying to save your life, son. I looked at Cody. He shook his head slightly, a warning. But I was desperate. Desperate enough to ignore the warning signs. The way Harold's eyes gleamed when he talked about the money. The way Linda kept refreshing the page to watch the donations climb. Okay. My voice sounded hollow. Thank you. Harold's smile was triumphant. You just focus on getting better. Linda and I will handle everything. They left, and Cody turned to me immediately. That was a mistake. I know. Then why? Because I'm dying, Cody. And right now, they're the only chance I have. Over the next 2 weeks, the GoFundMe went viral. Local news picked up the story. Heartbreaking. Local man needs heart transplant. Community rallies to help. My church donated. Former teachers from high school sent money. Neighbors I barely knew contributed. The donations climbed higher and higher. 20,000, 30,000, $43,000. I watched from Cody's apartment, recovering from surgery, as strangers saved my life. Messages poured in with the donations. Praying for you, Augustus. Stay strong. My uncle had a transplant, and he's thriving. You've got this. Their kindness overwhelmed me. And it made me think that maybe, just maybe, my father had genuinely changed. Maybe the crisis had shocked him into becoming the dad I'd always wished he was. I should have known better. Cody never trusted it. He watched Harold like a hawk, asking questions about the account, about where the money was going. Harold always had smooth answers. It's being held in a special account for Augustus's medical expenses. It's all documented. Don't worry. But Cody did worry. And one night, 3 weeks after the GoFundMe launched, while I was sleeping on his couch, he did some digging. He woke me up at 2 in the morning, his laptop screen glowing in the dark. Augustus. Wake up. You need to see this. I struggled to sit up, my chest still sore. What's wrong? Your father. Cody turned the laptop toward me. I've been tracking the GoFundMe account. The money's being withdrawn. What do you mean withdrawn? It's supposed to stay there until I need it for medical expenses. That's what I thought. Cody pulled up a screen showing transaction history. He'd apparently done some serious hacking to access this information. Look at these withdrawals. 2,000 here, 3,000 there. Small enough not to raise immediate red flags, but they add up. My stomach dropped. How much is gone? The fund showed 43,000 total raised. But when I traced the actual account balance, there's only 12,000 left. $31,000. Gone. I'm calling Harold. Right now. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and dialed. He answered on the 5th ring, his voice groggy. Augustus? It's 2 in the morning. What's wrong? Where's the money? What money? The GoFundMe money. $31,000 is missing. There was a long pause. Then Harold's voice came back, smooth and unconcerned. There's been expenses. Managing a fundraiser isn't free. Processing fees, administrative costs, things like that. $31,000 in fees? Look, son, you're getting worked up over nothing. The money's safe. I'm managing it properly. Go back to sleep. He hung up. Cody was already on the phone with GoFundMe's fraud department. It took until morning, but eventually we got through to someone who could help. The investigation moved quickly once Cody provided the evidence he'd gathered. By noon, the truth was undeniable. Harold had been stealing from my transplant fund, using the money to pay off his own debts. And those debts, it turned out, were extensive. $90,000 owed to various casinos and loan sharks. He'd been using my dying body as a way to save himself. The GoFundMe representative on the phone was sympathetic, but firm. We're freezing all remaining funds pending a full investigation. This is clearly fraud. We'll be filing a report with local law enforcement. What about the 12,000 that's left? That's frozen too. I'm sorry. Once the investigation is complete, those funds will be returned to the donors. My entire world was crashing down. Not only had my father stolen from me, but now the community that had tried to save me would lose their money too, and I'd be associated with the fraud. People would think I was in on it. The news broke that same afternoon. Local man's father accused of stealing from transplant fund. The story spread even faster than the original GoFundMe had. By evening, my phone was exploding with messages. Some supportive, but many angry, accusatory. How could you let this happen? Was this a scam from the beginning? I donated $500. I want it back. My employer called. The partners at Bradford and Associates needed to see me immediately. I went to the office the next day, still weak from surgery, and sat across from the managing partner. Augustus, we need to place you on administrative leave while this investigation is ongoing. Paid leave, he clarified, seeing my expression. But we can't have someone under investigation for fraud working with client finances. I'm sure you understand. I understood. I understood that my father had destroyed everything. My reputation, my livelihood, my chance at a transplant. I walked out of that office building knowing I was going to die. Not because my heart was failing, though it was, but because I had no way to pay for a new one. 2 months after my first collapse, I was surviving on Cody's charity and a small disability check. The pacemaker in my chest kept my heart beating, but I could feel myself getting weaker every day. Simple tasks, like walking to the bathroom, left me breathless. Showering required a chair. Dr. Patterson confirmed what I already knew. Your heart is deteriorating faster than we'd hoped. We need to move you up the transplant list to critical status. But Augustus, you need to have financing secured within 2 weeks, or we'll have to move you back down. I don't have the money. I know. She looked genuinely sad. I'm sorry. I wish there was more I could do. The GoFundMe investigation was still ongoing. None of the donors had been refunded yet. The remaining 12,000 was still frozen. Harold had disappeared completely. His phone went to voicemail. His apartment was empty. Aunt Linda claimed she didn't know where he was, but I didn't believe her. The police issued a warrant for Harold's arrest for fraud and theft. But that didn't help me. He was gone. The money was gone, and I was dying. The stress of it all led to another collapse. I was at Cody's apartment, trying to make myself useful by doing dishes, when my vision went gray at the edges. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor with Cody shouting into his phone for an ambulance. Back to the hospital. Back to the same emergency room, where this nightmare had started 2 months ago. Dr. Patterson met me there, her expression grim. Your heart muscle is failing, Augustus. The pacemaker is doing its job, but there's only so much it can do when the muscle itself is dying. We're moving you to critical status on the transplant list. What does that mean? It means you're at the top. If a heart becomes available that matches your blood type and size, you'll be first in line. But it also means we estimate you have less than 3 months to live without a transplant. 3 months, 90 days, 12 weeks. And the money? You need 78,000 guaranteed. Right now, what do you have access to? I did the math in my head, even though I'd done it 1,000 times already. My retirement account has 19,000, but I'd lose almost half to penalties and taxes if I withdraw early. My regular savings is down to 11,000 after paying bills while on leave. My condo is being foreclosed on, so that's gone. Total available. About 30,000. You're short 48,000. Dr. Patterson sat down heavily in the chair beside my bed. I've worked with our financial services department. They've done everything they can. Without that money guaranteed, I can't in good conscience keep you at critical status. Other patients who can pay will move ahead of you. So I'm going to die. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Cody found me later that evening in my hospital room, staring at the ceiling. He'd brought takeout, my favorite burger and fries, but I couldn't eat. What was the point? We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Cody spoke. There's a reporter who wants to talk to you, Jessica Torres. She does investigative journalism for Channel 7. I reached out to her, told her your story. The real story, not the version that's out there now. I'm done with reporters. They destroyed me once already. She's different. Cody pulled out his phone, showing me clips of Jessica's previous work. Stories about corruption, injustice, people failed by systems that should have protected them. Her work had teeth. What if she makes it worse? How could it get worse? Cody's voice was gentle but firm. You're dying, man. You've got nothing to lose. Maybe, just maybe, she can help. That night, lying in that hospital bed with machines beeping around me and the weight of my failing heart in my chest, I hit rock bottom. Not the first rock bottom, not even the second. This was deeper than those. This was the realization that I'd fought and struggled and done everything right, and I was still going to die. My father had betrayed me. My community thought I was a thief. My job was gone. My home was gone. My savings were worthless because they weren't enough. And my heart, the one organ I needed most, was giving up. I thought about my mother that night. She'd died too young, too, sudden and without warning. Maybe it ran in our family. Maybe I was always meant to end up here. Cody slept in the chair beside my bed, refusing to leave me alone. At 3 in the morning, I woke up to find him watching me with tears on his face. You're my brother, he said quietly. Not by blood, but by choice. And I'm not giving up on you. So don't you give up either. Okay, I whispered. Call the reporter. Jessica Torres came the next morning, a woman in her mid-30s with sharp eyes and a kind smile. She set up a small camera on a tripod and sat across from me, a notepad in her lap. Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out. So I did. I told her about collapsing at the family barbecue, about my father's dismissal and Aunt Linda's scorn. I told her about the diagnosis, the pacemaker, the need for a transplant. I told her about Harold's attempt to steal my money with the power of attorney, about the GoFundMe fraud, about the $90,000 in gambling debts. I showed her bank statements, hospital bills, the frozen GoFundMe account, police reports. 3 hours of documentation proving I was the victim, not the perpetrator. "Why are you telling me this?" Jessica asked when I finished. "Because I'm dying. And before I do, I want people to know the truth. I want my father held accountable. And maybe, just maybe, someone out there will be moved enough to help." Jessica nodded slowly. "Give me 3 days." She left, and I waited, hoping against hope that this wasn't just another way for the universe to kick me while I was down. 3 days later, Jessica's story aired during the evening news. I watched from my hospital bed, Cody beside me, as my face filled the screen. The segment was titled, "Dying Son Betrayed. Father Steals from Heart Transplant Fund." 20 minutes of investigative journalism that laid out every detail. Jessica had tracked down Harold's gambling associates, interviewed them on hidden camera. She'd spoken to the donors who'd been defrauded, shown their heartbreak when they realized their money had gone to casinos instead of saving a life. She'd interviewed Dr. Patterson, who confirmed my dire need for a transplant. She'd gotten statements from Patricia, the patient advocate, about Harold's attempted power of attorney theft. She'd even tracked down the district attorney, who confirmed the warrant for Harold's arrest. And at the end, she showed me. Weak, dying, but clear-eyed. "I just want to live." My voice on the screen was steady. "I just want a chance. My father took that from me. But I'm begging anyone who can help. I don't want to die like this." The segment ended. Cody and I sat in silence, waiting to see if anyone was listening. My phone started ringing 5 minutes later, and it didn't stop. The story went viral within hours. National news picked it up. Social media exploded. But this time, the outrage wasn't directed at me. It was directed at Harold, at the system that had failed me, at the injustice of a man dying because his father was a thief. A new GoFundMe appeared by the next morning, created by Jessica herself, with oversight from a third-party financial manager. No family members had access. All funds would go directly to the hospital. The donations started immediately. $5, $10, $100. People who had nothing gave what they could. Within 24 hours, $5,000. Within 48 hours, $12,000. By the end of the week, $18,000. I watched the numbers climb with a mixture of hope and despair. 18,000 was amazing, incredible, more than I'd ever dared dream. But I still needed 30,000 more, and the clock was ticking. Then I got worse. Dr. Patterson came into my room with that expression I'd learned to dread. "Your heart is failing faster than we anticipated. You have maybe 2 weeks left without a transplant. We need to keep you at critical status. But Augustus, you need that money." 18,000. Still rising, but not fast enough. "I'm trying." "I know you are." She squeezed my hand. "Keep fighting." That afternoon I had a visitor I never expected. Aunt Linda appeared in my doorway, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She clutched her purse like a lifeline, her eyes red from crying. "Can I come in?" Every instinct told me to say no, but I was too tired to fight. She sat in the chair beside my bed, not meeting my eyes. "I need to tell you something. I need to confess." I waited. I knew. About Harold's plan. About the GoFundMe. She started crying. "He promised me $8,000 if I helped him. 20%, he said. I was behind on my mortgage. My car was about to be repossessed. I thought, just this once. You helped him steal from me." "Yes." Linda's voice broke. "And then he left. Took all the money and disappeared. He betrayed me too, but that doesn't matter because I betrayed you first. My own nephew. And now you're dying, and it's my fault. Why are you telling me this?" "Because there's something else. Something Harold didn't want anyone to know." Linda finally looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "When your mother died, she left you a trust fund." "What?" Your mother had life insurance, a policy worth $175,000. She set it up as a trust for you, to be released when you turned 35. Harold was the trustee. She reached into her purse and pulled out a key. This is to a safety deposit box at First National Bank. All the documentation is there. My heart, even as damaged as it was, started racing. Why didn't I know about this? Because Harold has been stealing from it for 5 years. Linda set the key on my bedside table. There's only 62,000 left. But there are documents in that box. Ledgers showing what he took and when. It's proof of embezzlement. With your medical emergency, a judge might release the trust to you immediately. Why are you giving me this? Because I can't live with myself anymore. Linda stood up, still crying. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But maybe this can help you live. She left, and I stared at the key she'd left behind. $62,000. Combined with the $18,000 from the new GoFundMe and my $11,000 in savings, that was $91,000. More than enough for the transplant. If I could access it. If it was real. If Linda wasn't lying. I called Cody and my lawyer immediately. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Angela, who I'd hired for the fraud case, moved fast. Within hours, we'd verified the safety deposit box existed. By the next morning, we'd retrieved the documents. Everything Linda said was true. The trust fund, the embezzlement, all documented in my mother's handwriting and Harold's forged signatures. Angela filed an emergency injunction to release the trust funds. The hearing was scheduled for 4 days away. 4 days. I had to stay alive for 4 days. But my heart had other plans. The day before the hearing, I collapsed again. This time, there was no warning. One moment I was sitting up in bed talking to Cody about the court case. The next moment the room was spinning and I couldn't breathe. Code blue. Room 417. Code blue. I woke up intubated, a breathing tube down my throat, machines doing the work my body couldn't do anymore. Dr. Patterson's face swam into view. She removed the tube carefully once I was stable. You can't keep doing this. Your heart is done, Augustus. If we don't get you a transplant in the next 72 hours, you won't make it. The hearing is tomorrow. I know. We're going to transport you there. Medical transport with full equipment. But Augustus, I need you to understand. This is your last chance. The next morning, they loaded me into an ambulance. A nurse came with me, monitoring equipment strapped everywhere. Cody rode in front. Jessica Torres was already at the courthouse, camera crew ready. I'd never felt so weak. Every breath was an effort. My skin had a gray tinge that terrified me every time I caught my reflection. I looked like a ghost. The courthouse was busy, people rushing past as they wheeled me in. Stairs followed us. A dying man in a wheelchair with oxygen and monitors, being pushed toward a courtroom. It wasn't a sight you saw every day. Judge Morrison was a stern-looking woman in her 60s, with silver hair and sharp eyes. She watched as they positioned my wheelchair at the plaintiff's table, medical equipment and all. This is highly irregular, she said. My lawyer Angela stood. Your Honor, my client is in critical condition. He may not survive another day. This hearing is literally a matter of life and death. The judge nodded. Proceed. Angela laid out the case methodically. The trust fund my mother had established. Harold's role as trustee. The embezzlement documented over 5 years. The original $175,000 reduced to $62,000 through Harold's theft. My critical medical need. My 32 years of age versus the 35 required for normal trust dispersal. We're asking for emergency release of the trust funds based on life-threatening medical circumstances and trustee malfeasance. Does the trustee wish to respond? Judge Morrison looked around the courtroom. And that's when the doors opened. Harold walked in like he owned the place, a lawyer at his side. He'd been found. The police had tracked him to Nevada and brought him back. He was out on bail, fighting the fraud charges, and now fighting to keep control of my mother's money. My dying mother's gift to me, and he was fighting to keep it from saving my life. Harold's lawyer was slick, expensive looking. Your Honor, My client disputes the characterization of his management of the trust. All withdrawals were legitimate expenses related to the trust's administration. Angela slapped a folder on the table. These legitimate expenses include $5,000 at the Bellagio Casino, $7,000 at the MGM Grand, $3,000 at a poker tournament in Atlantic City. Shall I continue? The courtroom was silent, except for the beeping of my heart monitor. Judge Morrison's expression hardened. Mr. Carver, did you or did you not withdraw $113,000 from a trust established for your son's benefit? Harold stood, and for the first time, I saw him without his masks. No fake concern, no manipulation, no charm, just cold self-interest. That money was used for Augustus's benefit over the years. Raising a child alone isn't cheap. I fed him, clothed him, put a roof over his head. I deserve compensation for that. You deserve compensation for being a parent? Judge Morrison's voice was ice. I deserve compensation for sacrificing my life for an ungrateful son who now wants to take everything from me. Something broke inside me. Maybe it was my heart finally giving up. Maybe it was 24 years of hoping my father would love me. But I found the strength to speak. Your Honor, may I say something? Judge Morrison nodded. I gripped the arms of my wheelchair and forced myself to stand. The nurse tried to stop me, but I shook my head. I needed to do this on my feet, even if they were the last words I ever said standing. My father is right. Raising me wasn't easy. My mother left him when I was 12, because he gambled away everything we had. She worked 2 jobs to support us. When she died, I was 19 and alone. Harold had remarried by then. Didn't want a college-age kid interfering with his new life. I worked my way through school. 3 jobs. I graduated with honors. I got a good job. I saved my money. I paid back every single loan, even the ones Harold co-signed, because I didn't want to owe him anything. I just wanted him to be proud of me. My voice broke, but I forced myself to continue. When I collapsed, when I was dying, his first thought was how to steal from me. He tried to slip a power of attorney into my surgery consent forms. When that didn't work, he created a fake charity and stole $43,000 from people who wanted to save my life. And when I found out about my mother's trust, the one thing she left to take care of me after she was gone, he stole from that too. I turned to face Harold directly. You're right that you deserve compensation. You deserve to be held accountable. You deserve to face justice. But you don't deserve a single penny of my mother's money. She left it to me because she loved me, something you never did. I sat back down, or rather collapsed back into the wheelchair, completely drained. Judge Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her voice carried the weight of finality. I'm granting the plaintiff's emergency petition. The trust funds are released immediately to Augustus Carver. Furthermore, I'm ordering Harold Carver to repay the $113,000 embezzled from the trust over the past 5 years. A separate hearing will be scheduled for restitution terms. She turned to Harold. And Mr. Carver, I'm remanding you into custody pending your criminal trial. Bailiff, please. 2 uniformed officers approached Harold. He started to protest, tried to argue, but they weren't interested. They cuffed him right there in the courtroom. As they led him past my wheelchair, he looked down at me. You'll regret this. This is all your fault. No. I met his eyes steadily. This is all your fault. They took him away, and for the first time in 2 months, I felt like I could breathe. Not physically, my heart was still failing, but emotionally, the weight of his betrayal lifted just slightly. Angela grabbed my hand. We did it. The money's yours. You can get your transplant. I tried to respond, tried to thank her and the judge and everyone who'd helped me, but the world was tilting sideways. The monitor beside me started screaming. Cody was shouting. The nurse was pulling out emergency medication. And then I was on the floor, and everything went dark. I didn't see what happened next, but Cody told me later. I flatlined right there in the courthouse hallway. My heart, pushed beyond its limits by the stress and emotion of the hearing, simply stopped. The nurse started CPR immediately. Someone called 911. Jessica's camera crew caught everything, though she later told them not to air it. For 9 minutes, I was dead. They worked on me, compressions and medication and shocks from a portable defibrillator someone found in the courthouse first aid station. 9 minutes of Cody begging me not to leave him. 9 minutes of strangers gathering to watch a man die on the courthouse floor. And then, on minute 10, my heart started again. They rushed me to St. Mary's, straight to the ICU. Dr. Patterson was waiting. They put me on life support, machines breathing for me, medications keeping my blood pressure up, my barely functional heart limping along with the pacemaker's help. I woke up hours later, to the sound of machines, and Cody's hand in mine. "Hey," he said softly. "Welcome back. Did we win?" "We won. The money's in the hospital account. Everything's set. We just need a heart." "How long?" "Dr. Patterson says you have maybe a day, 2 at most. You're at the top of the list. They're searching now." So all I had to do was stay alive long enough for someone else to die. The wait was the worst part. Every hour felt like a year. Cody stayed by my side the whole time. Jessica came by, updated me on the news coverage. The story had gone even more viral. Millions of people following along, praying for me, hoping I'd get my second chance. Hour 6. Nothing. Hour 9. Still nothing. Hour 12. Dr. Patterson came in with a grim expression. "I don't know how much longer we can keep you stable." Hour 13. I started saying my goodbyes to Cody. Just in case. Told him about my condo management passwords, my bank accounts, what to do with my stuff. He cried. I couldn't. Didn't have the energy. And then, at hour 13 and 47 minutes, Dr. Patterson burst through the door, her face transformed with the first genuine smile I'd seen in months. "We have a heart." The next few minutes were chaos. Nurses prepping me, consent forms signed, Cody hugging me and crying and saying he'd be waiting when I woke up. Jessica getting one last update for her story. Dr. Yamamoto appearing in his surgical scrubs, ready to perform the transplant that would either save my life or be my final chapter. As they wheeled me toward the operating room, I thought about everything that had led to this moment. My father's betrayal, the community's support, Linda's confession, the judge's ruling, all the twists and turns that had brought me to the edge of death and back. And I thought about the donor, whoever they were. Someone had died today. Their family was grieving. And yet they'd chosen to give me life. The magnitude of that gift was almost too much to comprehend. "Thank you," I whispered as they put the mask over my face. To the donor, to Cody, to everyone who'd fought for me. Thank you. The anesthesia took hold, and I surrendered to the darkness one more time, praying it wouldn't be the last. The surgery took 17 hours. I know because Cody timed every single minute, sitting in the waiting room with Jessica and Angela, and even Patricia, the patient advocate. They became my chosen family, the people who showed up when blood family failed. I don't remember the surgery itself, just fragments. The feeling of my chest being opened, the sensation of my damaged heart being removed, leaving an empty space where something essential should be. The moment the new heart was placed inside me. And then, nothing. I woke up 3 days later. The ICU was quiet. Machines beeped softly around me. My chest ached with a pain that was somehow different from before. Sharper, but cleaner. The pain of healing instead of dying. Cody was asleep in the chair beside my bed, his head tilted back at an uncomfortable angle. I tried to speak, but my throat was raw from the breathing tube. The movement must have woken him, because his eyes snapped open. When he saw me looking at him, his face crumpled. "You're awake." "Oh, thank God. You're awake." A nurse came in, checked my vitals, smiled. "Welcome back, Augustus. You gave us quite a scare." Dr. Yamamoto appeared an hour later, looking tired but pleased. "The surgery was successful. Your new heart is functioning beautifully. All signs are positive." "How do I feel so good?" He laughed. "That's what a healthy heart feels like. You've been living with a damaged one for so long, you forgot what normal feels like." Over the next few days, they gradually reduced my medications and monitored my recovery. The new heart beat strong and steady in my chest. No struggling, no irregularity. Just a normal, healthy rhythm that I'd never experienced in my entire life. Visitors came in a steady stream. Jessica brought flowers and news updates. Angela came with paperwork about Harold's restitution. Patricia stopped by to check on me. Even some of the original GoFundMe donors came to see me, to witness the life they'd helped save. But not Harold. He was in county jail, awaiting trial on multiple fraud and embezzlement charges. Linda came once, briefly, to apologize again. I told her I forgave her. I wasn't sure if it was true, but holding on to anger took energy I needed for healing. 3 weeks after the transplant, Dr. Patterson cleared me to go home to Cody's apartment. I walked out of St. Mary's Hospital on my own 2 feet, breathing easily, my new heart strong in my chest. The story didn't end there, though. It never does. Harold's trial came 2 months later. I had to testify, had to sit in a courtroom and detail every betrayal, every theft, every moment of my father's calculated cruelty. The jury took less than 3 hours to find him guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 6 years in prison. As they led him away, he looked at me one last time. I thought I might see remorse, or anger, or something. But there was nothing. Just emptiness, where a father's love should have been. That was the last time I saw him. The restitution came slowly. Payments deducted from whatever money Harold earned in prison. It would take years, maybe decades, to repay the $113,000 he'd stolen from my mother's trust. But knowing he was held accountable was enough. Aunt Linda completed her probation and community service. She moved to another state, trying to rebuild her life away from the scandal. We exchanged Christmas cards, cordial but distant. Some relationships couldn't be fully repaired, and that was okay. The original GoFundMe donors were refunded by the platform after the fraud conviction. Many of them immediately donated to my new GoFundMe, the legitimate one Jessica had created. Their faith in me, even after being betrayed, meant more than the money. I returned to work at Bradford and Associates after 4 months of recovery. The partners apologized for the administrative leave, though I understood why it had been necessary. They promoted me to senior accountant as an apology, with a significant raise. For the first time in my life, I was financially comfortable. But the biggest change wasn't financial. It was perspective. I'd learned that family isn't defined by blood. Cody, who'd stood by me through everything, was more my brother than Harold had ever been. Jessica, who'd told my story when no one else would listen, became a close friend. The community of strangers who'd donated their hard-earned money to save my life, they were family too. I started a nonprofit 6 months after my transplant. Augustus's Hope Fund, dedicated to helping transplant patients navigate the financial nightmare of life-saving surgery. I used my accounting skills to help them find assistance, to spot financial abuse from family members, to protect themselves when they were most vulnerable. Every person I helped felt like honoring the gift I'd been given. Not just the new heart, but the second chance. The opportunity to turn trauma into purpose. I spoke at fundraisers, at hospitals, at support groups. I told my story over and over, not because I enjoyed reliving the pain, but because it helped others. People who'd been betrayed by family, who'd lost everything to medical bills, who'd given up hope. My story showed them that survival was possible, that justice could prevail, that love from chosen family could heal wounds blood family inflicted. Jessica's original story won a regional Emmy. She used the platform to launch a series on medical debt and family fraud, helping countless others like me. We stayed close, meeting for coffee every few weeks. Her camera crew now just friends instead of journalists documenting tragedy. The transplant coordinator at St. Mary's told me about my donor 6 months after surgery. A 39-year-old woman named Sarah from Oklahoma. She'd been a teacher, a mother of 2, an organ donor who died in a car accident. Her family agreed to meet me a year after the transplant. Standing in their living room, Sarah's husband and children looking at me with tears in their eyes, I didn't know what to say. How do you thank someone for the ultimate gift? Sarah's husband, a quiet man named David, spoke first. She would have wanted this. Wanted you to live. Wanted her death to mean something. I made him a promise that day. I would live fully. I would honor Sarah's gift every single day. I would be the man her sacrifice deserved. And I kept that promise. 3 years after my transplant, I ran my first 5K race for transplant awareness. Cody ran beside me, Jessica's camera crew filming, a crowd of supporters cheering from the sidewalks. My chest ached in the good way, muscles working hard, lungs expanding with air, Sarah's heart, beating strong and steady. At the finish line, I pressed my hand to my chest and felt that steady rhythm. Every beat was a gift. Every breath was a victory. I'd survived not just a failing heart, but a father's betrayal. I'd endured fraud, financial ruin, and the brink of death. And I'd come out the other side stronger. The nonprofit grew beyond anything I'd imagined. In 3 years, we'd helped over 200 transplant patients secure funding. We'd identified and reported 15 cases of family financial abuse. We'd partnered with hospitals across the state to provide patient advocates and financial protection. My mother would have been proud. The trust fund she'd left me, the one Harold had tried to steal, became the seed money for something bigger than myself. Her final act of love rippled outward, saving lives beyond just mine. I eventually bought a new condo, modest but mine, filled it with photos of chosen family. Cody, Jessica, Angela, Patricia, the donors who'd saved me, Sarah's family. Harold wasn't in a single picture. He existed in my story, in my past, but not in my present or future. People asked if I'd forgiven him. The answer was complicated. I'd let go of the anger because carrying it was poisonous. But forgiveness implies reconciliation, and there would never be that. He'd made his choices. I'd made mine. We'd both live with the consequences. Linda and I eventually reached a tentative peace. She'd been weak, not evil. Desperate, not malicious. Her confession had saved my life, even if her initial betrayal had nearly ended it. That kind of complexity didn't fit into neat categories of forgiveness or condemnation. It just was. The scar on my chest became something I wore with pride instead of shame. It represented survival. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw proof that I'd fought and won. That goodness existed in the world, even when badness tried to destroy it. Dr. Patterson became a friend, too. She attended my nonprofit events, spoke about the medical side of transplants, helped us identify patients who needed assistance. She'd seen me at my lowest and never given up. That kind of advocacy changed lives. I started dating again, carefully. Trust didn't come easy after what Harold had done, but I worked through it with a therapist. Eventually, I met someone who understood. Another transplant survivor, a woman named Amy who'd received a kidney 5 years earlier. She understood the guilt of celebrating life when someone else had died. She understood the daily gratitude mixed with grief. We understood each other. On the 5th anniversary of my transplant, I visited Sarah's grave, brought flowers, sat on the grass beside her headstone, and talked to her like she could hear me. Told her about the nonprofit, about the lives saved, about Amy. Told her that her heart was happy, that it beat for joy and purpose and love. Thank you, I said to the stone, to Sarah, to whatever comes after death. You gave me everything. Life wasn't perfect. I still had medical appointments every few months. Still took immunosuppressants to prevent rejection. Still dealt with the aftermath of trauma, the nightmares about dying in courthouse hallways, the occasional panic when my heart beat too fast or too slow. But it was life. Real, messy, beautiful life. The lesson I learned through all of it was simple but profound. Blood doesn't make family, love does. Choice matters more than genetics. And when everything is stripped away, when you're dying on a hospital bed with nothing left, you discover who truly cares. For me, that discovery was worth the pain, worth the betrayal, worth every moment of suffering. Because on the other side of that darkness was a community of chosen family who showed me what love really meant. Harold taught me what love wasn't. Cody, Jessica, Angela, Patricia, the donors, Sarah's family. They taught me what love was. And in the end, love won. I stood at the finish line of that 5K race, Cody's arm around my shoulders, Jessica interviewing us for a follow-up story, strangers coming up to shake my hand and tell me I'd inspired them. My new heart, Sarah's heart, beat steady and strong. I'd fought my way back from the edge of death. I'd overcome betrayal and injustice. I'd built a new life from the ashes of the old one. And every single day, I chose to live fully, to honor the gift I'd been given, to be worthy of the sacrifice made for me. That's victory. Not wealth or revenge or vindication, though those came too. Real victory is choosing love over bitterness, purpose over despair, life over death. And I chose life. Every single day, I chose life. So, to anyone listening to this story, anyone facing their own betrayal, their own impossible situation, their own moment of despair, don't give up. Your chosen family is out there. Your purpose is waiting. Your second chance might be just around the corner. And to those who've been the betrayers, the heralds of the world, it's never too late to choose differently, to be better, to love instead of taking, to give instead of stealing, to build instead of destroying. But if you won't make that choice, if you insist on your cruelty, know this: you'll lose. Maybe not immediately, maybe not obviously, but in the end, love always wins. I'm living proof. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you find the strength to move forward? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story moved you, if it gave you hope or made you think differently about family and loyalty and second chances, I'd be grateful if you'd hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories when they need them most. And please, subscribe to this channel. There are more stories like mine out there. Stories of people who faced impossible odds and found a way through. Stories of survival and triumph. And the incredible resilience of the human spirit. You don't want to miss them. Finally, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. We all know someone going through a hard time. Someone who's been betrayed or is facing an impossible situation. Maybe this story will give them the courage to keep fighting. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. And remember, no matter what you're facing, no matter how dark it seems, there's always hope, always a way forward, always people who will stand beside you if you let them. Choose your family wisely. Choose love over bitterness. Choose life. Every single day, choose life.